He switched lawyers. That is where I want to start.
Forget the dive teams. Forget the Coast Guard cutter already pushing towards the Bahamas. Not with the cadaver dog heading back into the field for the first time since this investigation first began.
We start with the lawyer.
Because Brian Hooker, previously represented by a local Michigan criminal defense attorney, has just swapped them for someone with a very strategic background. Former Department of Justice. Let that sink in for a moment. Not some local attorney, not just a criminal defense specialist. An attorney with deep roots in the United States Department of Justice. Federal litigation. Federal prosecution. The kind of legal counsel you hire when you realize this is not a state matter. Not a local investigation. Not something a standard Michigan defense lawyer can handle from some office in Grand Rapids. You bring in someone like this when you expect to fight the federal government of the United States. And that tells us everything. This is a major investigative update. Before anything else, every detail in this report comes from verified public sources, including Ashley Banfield's Drop Dead Serious podcast from June 1, 2026, along with Daily Mail reports on the boatyard surveillance footage, and Fox News Digital. All sources are listed at the end of this episode. Nothing is fabricated. No speculation without direct attribution. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We share what investigators confirm and ask the hard questions the evidence demands. Now, let us look at what actually went down this week. Because one single word just changed everything. On June 1st, Ashley Banfield confirmed through her own sources that this entire case has officially crossed into brand new territory.
The disappearance of Lynette Hooker,
which began as a missing person case, escalated to criminal and then a federal maritime investigation. It is now being classified by Ashley's sources as a suspected murder investigation. Not a missing person, not an accident, and not an undetermined cause. Suspected murder.
I want to tread carefully here, because being precise is absolutely crucial.
Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crime. His attorneys insist he categorically and completely denies any wrongdoing. Everyone mentioned in this episode is presumed innocent, unless officially charged and proven guilty in a court of law. That is not just a standard legal disclaimer we gloss over. It is the baseline standard we apply to every claim in every episode. But what we can share is what Ashley Banfield's sources have verified. And they have confirmed that the officials conducting this investigation are no longer treating this as a missing person case. They are treating it as a suspected murder. In Brian's response, retaining a former Department of Justice attorney suggests he knows exactly what kind of trouble he is in.
husbands grieving an accidental loss.
At sea, do not trade their defense lawyers for former federal prosecutors.
They just do not.
Let us focus on one specific detail that keeps haunting this investigation. On March 11th, Lynette Hooker held a ticket. Ashley Banfield confirmed this detail during her June 1st broadcast. Lynette bought a ticket specifically dated for March 11th. She was planning an escape. She made her decision, purchased the passage, and prepared to leave. Just 2 weeks later, she was dead. It is hard to state that reality without stopping to let it sink in. She held the ticket. She built the plan. She was finally breaking free. But she never made it. Journalist Ashley Banfield has documented the troubled history of this relationship, exposing the severe physical abuse Lynette secretly described to her closest circle, uncovering a tragic pattern of running away and then returning, highlighting the sheer desperation of Lynette's mother, who consulted women's shelters, desperately seeking ways to convince her daughter not to ever return. Lynette even documented her bruised back. During their time together, secretly sharing the proof with a trusted friend, she told her friend that this was where it happened, that she was pinned against the back of the sailboat. He was choking her.
Those are Lynette's own words,
preserved in Ashley Banfield's investigative reporting.
And Lynette's mother heard these fears repeatedly.
Lynette promised her mother and her friends she was leaving him for good. She walked away from that boat multiple times, but she kept returning. That cycle of escape and return is a dynamic law enforcement understands well. It is documented, heavily researched, and named. This dynamic does not make Lynette less credible. Indeed, it makes her entirely human, more real, more relatable. She secured a ticket from March 11th. She purchased it. She designed her escape. Yet something intervened between March 11th and April 4th, trapping her on that boat. And then came April 4th. Let us look at what is physically unfolding in the Bahamas right now. The United States Coast Guard cutter Margaret Norville is steaming towards the islands. Ashley confirmed this deployment during her June 1st broadcast. She is a 154-foot fast response cutter with a crew of 24. She can reach top speeds of 35 knots, comfortably cruising at 20. Equipped with a galley, full sleeping quarters, and everything required for an extended tactical mission. This is no routine patrol. This is an active deployment.
On board are specialized dive teams and agents from CGIS,
The Coast Guard Investigative Service. The Coast Guard's Federal Criminal Investigative Arm. They have been leading this hunt from day one. There is another critical piece of gear out there, an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. This underwater robotic system scans the ocean floor with precision, in dark, deep zones that are too dangerous for human divers to reach. The ROV dives deep, beaming back crystal-clear footage of whatever is resting on the seabed. While human divers search one grid, the ROV scans an entirely different set of coordinates. It effectively doubles their search capacity overnight. Ashley also pointed out a RIB, a rigid inflatable boat, stationed right on the cutter. This craft is military-grade fast, built to ferry dive teams and investigators between search zones in minutes. The Margaret Norville acts as the primary command center, while the RIB and the divers do the heavy lifting. Then there is Maggie, a highly trained cadaver dog from the Broward County Sheriff's Office. She has already played a crucial role in this investigation. Ashley confirmed that Maggie and her handler are headed back to the Bahamas for this mission. Now, you need to understand what Maggie is capable of, because it changes everything. And frankly, I do not think this has been clearly reported anywhere else. Maggie can pick up the scent of decomposition 30 feet underwater. Not just floating on the surface, we are talking 30 feet down. A decomposing body in water releases distinct oils, which slowly drift straight to the surface. Even from 30 feet deep, those oils will pool on the water's surface, giving a trained cadaver dog a clear target. Ashley verified this firsthand after speaking directly with Maggie's handler during their first meeting. During this deployment, Maggie will scour multiple locations, covering both land and open water. But she is also tasked with a brand new challenge in this case. She is finally going to search that dinghy. Let that sink in for a second. The 8-foot inflatable dinghy, which Brian claims he paddled through pitch-black water for hours, has never been sniffed by Maggie. It remained locked away in the custody of the Royal Bahamas Police. She only searched Soulmate, but not the dinghy. That is about to change on this run. If Lynette Hooker was ever inside that small boat, if something occurred there that Brian left out of his story, Maggie is going to find it. The scent of decomposition can linger for a long time in an enclosed inflatable. Heavy rains since April 4th might have washed some of that evidence away. Or it might not. That is exactly what detectives are trying to prove. Maggie will also be scanning the coastline south of Brian's alleged landing spot. Here is why that detail matters. Following the events on April 4th, crews thoroughly combed locations matching Brian's timeline. They checked water currents where Lynette would have drifted had she fallen in where he claimed. beaches where key evidence could have drifted ashore.
But the area south of Brian's claimed landing zone was never fully searched back then.
This upcoming deployment aims to cover that exact zone.
Let us look at another detail Ashley confirmed that has slipped under the radar.
Dean Zanzo, a key local source who has been crucial to Ashley's ongoing investigation.
He is the one who secured the overnight security footage of
Movement where the boat Soulmate was anchored, and he points to a spot in Tulu Cut, plunging 40 feet deep.
40. The GPS coordinates in the Sea of Abaco, where Brian's devices recorded those strange, repetitive circular tracks, only reach about 25 feet down, as reported by Fox News, or 15 feet according to other local sources. But Tulu Cut hides a drop of 40 feet.
That is far deeper than any underwater site mentioned in public reports.
Ashley pointed out that an 8-foot dinghy with a small electric motor simply could not survive the rough Atlantic waters out past Tulu Cut. Not in the dark.
And certainly not in 20-knot winds.
There are sheltered pockets right inside the cut itself, and those calmer waters sit directly over that 40-foot depth. This specific deep zone is a high priority for the dive team now. Now, let us return to the shipyard, because a strange detail from 3:35 in the morning on April 5th has been largely ignored. The Daily Mail reviewed the security footage from Marsh Harbor Boatyard. They describe Brian as unnaturally calm and casual, checking his wrist, showing zero panic, and never screaming out for his missing wife.
Ashley verified these reports and uncovered even more troubling facts.
Brian was not just glancing at his watch once. He kept checking it repeatedly.
He paced the property, peering behind structures, slipping in and out of the shadows.
A witness described his behavior as deeply unsettling. This is not how a traumatized man acts after drifting lost for over 8 hours in the ocean.
There is something else, another piece of evidence. Clutched in his left hand, and clearly captured on the security tape, is a dark, flat object, like a tablet, much bigger than a phone. He carries this flat electronic device while stalking through the dark yard at 3:35 in the morning. But when the local rescue crew finally pulled him onto their boat just hours later, that flat device was completely gone. It vanished, which led investigators to a critical question. Was it hidden in that yellow dry bag? The very bag rescuers remember him carrying, though they clash on the color. Yellow, light blue, or dark blue, depending on who you ask. But he definitely had a waterproof bag. We also know now that several angles of security footage exist, not just a single clip. Different angles, multiple cameras, and investigators have access to every single one. What exactly was that object? What was a man who had just survived 8 hours drifting helplessly at sea doing holding a tablet-like device in his left hand at 3:35 in the morning?
And where did it vanish to?
I do not have those answers. What I have is the question. And that is a question investigators are likely working to answer right now. Let us turn our attention back to the lawyer for a moment. Because the gravity of Brian's decision to hire a former Department of Justice attorney is easily lost amidst all the other complex details of this case. So let me spell out exactly what that choice means. The DOJ, the United States Department of Justice, serves as the federal government's primary law enforcement and litigation arm. Federal prosecutors operate through the department. It is where federal criminal cases are built. When you hire a lawyer with a background in the Department of Justice, someone who worked on the prosecutorial side of these exact types of federal cases, you are bringing on someone who knows from the inside how a federal case is constructed, how evidence is gathered, how charges are framed, and how a federal prosecution unfolds the moment investigators make their move. Brian's former lawyer, a Michigan-based defense attorney, was, as Ashley described it, not quite equipped for this level of federal litigation. The new attorney is,
And the reason you bring in someone with that background now is because you know you need them.
you hire a federal defense lawyer who knows Department of Justice tactics from the inside.
When you expect what is coming is a full-scale federal case. That is a decision Brian made.
No one forced him. He sized up the progress of this investigation and made a strategic calculation.
Ashley stated this clearly on her June 1st episode.
I suspect Brian knows he is facing a federal battle and needed an experienced federal lawyer.
Someone with deep expertise.
In federal prosecutions.
And she is absolutely right. This is Brian's own tell about where he expects this case is heading.
Now, let us talk about jurisdiction, because it keeps coming up, and we need to clarify how it works.
The United States Coast Guard
Holds jurisdiction in this matter due to one crucial detail. The Soulmate, the boat at the heart of this investigation,
Was a United States vessel registered in Florida.
under maritime law, when a crime happens on a United States vessel,
The federal government has full authority to investigate.
and prosecute those crimes, no matter where the ship was floating. That is why CGIS, the Coast Guard Investigative Service, leads this active investigation, not the FBI.
CGIS.
This is the elite criminal investigative branch of a United States military force. Long before the FBI even existed, they held full jurisdiction over crimes at sea.
Ashley pointed out that CGIS actually investigates crimes in Antarctica.
Their authority extends to extreme environments where typical police forces are never allowed to step foot. This is their world.
This is their mission.
Investigators believe Lynette Hooker, an American citizen, lost her life on or near the Soulmate,
A United States flagged vessel, registered in Florida.
That single detail grants federal agents the legal right to operate in the Bahamas right now.
Not as mere guests, but as investigators with full legal standing.
Fortunately, the Bahamian authorities are fully cooperating.
They have officially cleared the recovery dive teams to enter their territorial waters.
They have worked with CGIS throughout this operation. The Royal Bahamas Police are running an active case alongside the United States federal investigation. This complex international case spans multiple jurisdictions, backed by heavy federal resources and clear legal authority, pushing toward what investigators
Now openly call a suspected murder.
The Margaret Norvell, the Maggie, is now bound for the Bahamas. The specialized dive teams and their ROV are both en route to the Bahamas. And somewhere in the deep currents and coastlines of the Sea of Abaco,
At specific coordinates flagged by GPS data.
In secluded areas where a cadaver dog has never sniffed. And inside a 40-foot deep depression that local contacts have finally confirmed.
Federal agents are going to search for Lynette Hooker.
She was 55 years old, a resident of Onstead, Michigan.
She had purchased a ticket on March 11th, desperately trying to leave.
She deserved to escape that life. Currently, Brian Hooker faces no criminal charges.
His defense team states he absolutely and completely denies any involvement.
Every single person mentioned in this case
Is presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a formal court of law. If you know anything at all, submit an anonymous tip to CGIS using their mobile app.
the Royal Bahamas Police Force also continues their active inquiry.
Both contact links are in the description below.
Because out here, every single victim deserves the truth.
And every story deserves to be told.